I think what we tried to do was say, the first season we were really trying to find out what the show was. A lot of things that we really loved. We asked a lot of questions along the way. We thought what we had to do was answer some of those questions. We had to deepen the characters. We had to try and do better in terms of spectacle and action than we did the first time. And of course, we had a slight diversion when one of our cast disappeared to go into children.
Where did he go?
I've no idea. I've no idea. Into another dimension, apparently. It's just one of those things. If anybody else would like to be Doctor Who, they should tell me now.
Okay, guys, you gotta tell Adrian.
Who knows? Who knows? It could happen. Cool. Be a cool Doctor Who. So that was unexpected, but we. You know, obviously what you've got to do is keep moving and just develop the characters. I think it's all about that, really.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, what appealed to you when you were offered the part of Rochefort?
Well, I wanted to do something where I kind of had to man up a little bit, because I've been, I've done a lot of recently I've been doing a lot of sort of comedy and sort of cheeky chappy type stuff, so I was looking to get into a bit more rough stuff. And being the natural horseman and swordsman.
Tell us about your love of horse riding.
Yeah, no, I'm not really a gifted horse rider. We had to do boot camp at the beginning of this, and that's kind of when I first met all the boys. Well, I'd known Tom before, but
You were at boot camp, were you?
what? It was boot camp, but I was like the kid who gets picked last at school in the football team. I wasn't, and these guys are they're fearless. They really are. They're amazing. But I'm just so proud to be up on the screen with them and kind of holding my own with them, because I just think they're fantastic. So.
Brilliant. What do you think that Rochefort brings to the show then? Another element, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just a real bastard, basically. I'm always strangling people, putting my sword through people, just being horrible, double-sided, and
is that fun to play?
yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, no, it just got better and better for me. The more I kind of relaxed into it, it was just a joy. It really was. Yeah.
Howard, when we met on set, you said you thought one of the appeals of the first series was the bromance between the four of you. Is that something that you'd emphasise?
Absolutely, the bromance has moved on tenfold. We're all much more connected, no pun intended. But no, it's gone from strength to strength, and that's been a testament to everyone that's been involved in the show. And also to add something about Marc, he really is a worthy adversary, and that gives us all the opportunity to be even more heroic. So testament to what Marc has brought to the show. Thanks, Marc.
Thanks, mate.
Love you.
Santiago, this has been a huge hit. 147 countries, some of which we didn't even know existed, have transmitted this show now. And I believe you went to South America to promote it. What is it about it that has struck such a universal chord?
Well, I think that, being the Musketeers, sort of the brand in itself is something universally known to people. And the themes of the show, friendship and brotherhood and bromance and all that. I just think it's got, there's something very, that the archetype of the characters are very strong, sort of the great fun to play as actors, kind of these very strong male lead characters that are sort of stand up for each other. Yeah, we were just in South Africa. We did a week in South Africa, which was fantastic. And so you get to travel the world, see different countries, and see how people respond to it. And it's been marvelous. Yeah.
Tom, the chemistry between the four of you is very strong. Is it important that you develop that off the screen as well?
I don't know if it was something we needed to develop. It was pretty immediate, and I think wisely there was never a chemistry audition for the four of us, because I think those things can be really, it's such a weird environment to try and, get in touch with that in. So I think, casting us as a group was a very intuitive thing for everyone involved, and it just, yeah, it was there from day one. And I think it was a nice to know that that had been really received in the first series, because I think we all felt it was there. It wasn't something we wanted to be effortful about, especially as it's a series. You don't want to start putting in kind of received ideas of, you know, how to play a friendship on screen. All the friendships in the book are written in such a nuanced way that to be able to let that develop at its own pace on a slow burn is the right way to do it. And I think that's why people like the series. I think people who are fans of the book and of all the other versions, they've often come back to the book as the primary thing. The book, you know, it's a big book. It takes a while to get through. I think the fact it's a series means you follow those friendships in the same way as you would in the book.
Luke, Mark mentioned the boot camp. What do you think that adds to the whole show? Is it important that you're honing those incredible, you know, swashbuckling skills that we see on the screen there?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, you know, the boot camp was like, I mean, I'm sure the boys will all agree, is, you know, it kind of, to get us up to speed with everything technically, it's, you know, it's the most valuable week of the entire show, really. But as well, you know, kind of like Howard mentioned it, it's kind of you leave your ego at the door, you know, there's no pretense or anything, you know, you're sweating together, you're, you know, kind of getting red-faced together, you're learning everything together at the same pace as well. So it's kind of, it makes us all, it equalises us a lot more, you know. And as well as kind of, like I said, getting up to speed with things technically, it just helps us to kind of just get together and just be mates. And like we said, you take that onto screen and it, you know, it's worthwhile tenfold.
That's great. It looks wonderful. What does shooting in the Czech Republic add to it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I meant to thank the Czech Republic at the beginning for pretending to be France so well. It just gives you a value that you simply can't get in the UK or I think in most places. Every time you turn around a corner in the Czech Republic, you trip over a palace, usually with an old lady and a few hens looking after it. But it's an extraordinary place to shoot, and it adds enormous value to the look of the show. And I don't know of any other country on earth where we'd get that.
Mark, the stunts are amazing. Some of the sword fighting is extraordinary. Is that hard to master?
Well, I always insist on doing my own stunts. Do you know what? I'm such a wuss. I really am. I'm not good at any of that stuff. I'm rubbish at running as well. I'm so pleased they cut away from me when I'm running. I run terrible. No, the stunt guys we had on this are just unbelievable. They're incredible, and they make us look so good. I mean, I did a bit of horse riding, but a lot of it, you know, running off and going off into a canter, they got the stunt guy to do. But on my first horse riding lesson, because you know there's 4 speeds to a horse. There's walk, trot, canter, and gallop. And I was walking, and the woman just said, "Give it a kick, and it will go into canter." And that's straight from 1st to 3rd gear, which I did, and it just went, and I just hung on to it, and pretty much the fear just set in then and just got worse every day. They're big animals, you know, they just turn on you at any point. And can I just say, Luke, you're such a hero in that first episode. You're so wonderful. Thank you.
We should say though, all that sword fighting you did was you then?
That was me. That was me. It was me and you, wasn't it? Me and you against all those guys. So we took them all on, and we took them all out.
The sequence on the pulley where you're crossing Ravine, that looked incredibly scary.
Yeah. Well, Steve Stunts. You got to trust these guys. If they say it's safe to do it, then it's safe, and you just have to bite the bullet and go. But we're all wired up. Everything's, you know, everything's checked and double checked, and producers are having kittens that somebody's going to fall and break their neck, so everything has to be, you know, made safe. And it is safe. Yeah.
And Luke, the swimming scene looked quite scary as well. Was that difficult to achieve?
It was. I mean, it was kind of. I mean, Colin emailed me. I got an email off Colin and production coordinator Arnie before. I think when it was just an idea floating around, they just said, "How do you feel underwater?" And it was kind of, you know, going back to many a time when I was a kid, submerging myself in the bath, holding my breath. But it was. I mean, I've always been quite comfortable underwater anyway. But I didn't realise the scale of what it was going to be, really. But you know, the stuff where I'm in the tunnel at the end, swimming through the tunnel and going up the well. That was all a set, so that was all, that was all fine. The water was warm, and we kind of, there was like a little air pocket at the top where I could kind of just come up and grab some breath whenever I needed it. But going into that lake, the original where I go into the lake and I'm kind of got the castle up there, that was effing freezing. So that was so that took a little bit of work, and it was kind of in kind of earlier this year as well. So it was freezing cold, but it was it was great fun, and I had a lot of time. I had a lot of fun doing it as well.
I'm going to ask you all now just to run through the character's journey. I know that sounds like the X Factor, but where does your character go in this series? I mean, it looks like it's a huge story for Porthos, for instance. A general thoughts about that.
Yeah, and I have a lot to be thankful for, and thank you, Adrian, because it's such a pleasure playing that storyline and something I really wanted, and very important for the character, to go on that journey of identity, and it gets very, very emotional, very, very emotional, and it's at both the level of the actor as well as the character, but it's certainly a pleasure to play, and I'm looking forward to everyone seeing it, because we all worked very, very hard on that storyline, and I saw a bit of it the other day, and it's there's a lot of fruits of our labour, so it's great.
And Santiago, your character as well, lots of things going on with the Dauphin, all the women who sadly keep dying. Tell us about his journey in this series.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember it. There's some. Well, obviously the Dauphin is a big part of Aramis's journey in this one, and to get to the Dauphin, he has a great relationship with the beautiful, wonderful Charlotte Salt, who's there, who's great on the show, and obviously with the Queen, the impossible love story is very present, and the son being there and at the centre. So it's great. Yeah, a real, a bigger emotional journey in that sense. I'd say with there's more of an arc and with a great conclusion. At the end, I think there's changes going on. So it's great to play that.
And Tom, what's happening for Athos?
He hasn't seen Milady de Winter for, I think, 7 or 8 months. And he thinks she's gone, and he thinks that's all dealt with and resolved, and pretty soon she comes back into the picture, and there's more layers to the onion with that, and particularly in regards to his feelings about justice and forgiveness. It's just a big bag of confusion that he's never been as clear as he wanted it to, and I suppose that's really the journey of the series for him.
And Luke, tell us about D'Artagnan.
Well, obviously D'Artagnan's a fully fledged musketeer now, so kind of starting season 2, I've come in and I've kind of hit the ground running with that. He's well established within the regiment now. So it's been really fun to kind of play that and actually not have Howard going, well, you're not a musketeer, mate. So it's been nice to not hear that this season. But it's been good. And then obviously the roller coaster that is Constantian, as the fans like to call it, that's kind of up and down. But it's been a joy. It's been a joy to work on this season, and
Isn't that brilliant that you've got a nickname for your relationship, like Brangelina or whatever? It shows the level that you've.
Sorry, who? Yeah, no, it is. It's fantastic. There's one for you and Mamie as well.
Do you kiss Constance this year?
I don't know. Let me think. Maybe. Maybe once or twice. You might see it. Yeah.
Adrian, the characters are so well established now. If God willing, you go for the 3rd series, you're already thinking ahead to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of development work already being done. Obviously, the future remains to be seen, and we're very focused on this series at the moment. But there's a lot of places these stories can go. I mean, we certainly finish 1 or 2 stories in this series that I think needed addressing in detail. And I think there'll be some new directions if we do get to a 3rd season, very much so.
Right. Any questions from the audience, by the way?
Can I just say one thing? I'm so sorry. I know it's very natural to talk about the boys, and that's obviously what it's called, the Musketeers. I do want to put in a word for Tamala and Ali Dowling and Mamie McCoy. Charlotte, and of course, although he's definitely not a girl, Ryan, who plays the king, and Hugo Spear, because all great things.
Strengthen the role of women in this world, because she says she's a woman in a world built for men.
Yeah, well, that's one of the main themes that we explore in this series with all the women characters. There are ways of succeeding in that world using your sexuality, using sort of what might be seen as traditional, old-fashioned weapons, and there are ways of doing it which don't rely on that, and we show those different kinds of things. And we also show the terrible dilemma between where you want to love and where your duty lies. So that's really what the series is about as much as anything.
Right. Yes, anyone in the audience?
Can I just ask, because I just love the female characters in this series, obviously the boys as well, but if there is a third series, would you develop the female characters even more? They could be female Musketeers. I think they'd be rather good as well.
We've nearly tipped our historical advisor over the edge into a nervous breakdown. So I think a female musketeer might be the final straw for him. I think there's no limit to what we can do. And if that story seemed appealing, that we'd certainly do it.
They're just so strong, and everyone's so great on it, and the women are just as good as the boys, I think, as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's always good all round.
Yes, did you have a question?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to ask Mark, when it was announced that you were joining the show, you said that you had a fear of horses. How did you overcome that?
Well, just had to get on the horse, you know. Basically, I just had to get on it and just keep going forward. I mean, I asked Tom about it because I figured that Tom would be the most similar to me, and he just said it's a steep curve, but you know, suddenly everybody kept saying to me, "There's going to be a moment where you're just going to love it." And you're going to get on that horse and it's going to be fantastic. That moment never came, but it was okay. I never got to canter on screen, but I did canter in a ring once. But you just got to get on and do it. But I always gave it lots of grass before I got on it, stroked it, looked it in the eyes, and just said, "Please don't kill me."
Not face. Yes, David.
I'd just like to ask you, the Musketeers, how many weeks for this series, how many weeks did you have to do filming out in and which did you find the hardest thing? I mean, there's so much action in this. Each one of you, if you could tell which was the hardest thing for you to do on this series, what do you find is the most draining physical part of it? And how long were you filming?
Well, it's 28 weeks, 31 weeks of filming. And I guess the physical side, I think being a lead on any TV show, the schedule is quite grueling, but on top of it all, we've got the physical nature of it, where you're, always ahead of the game when it comes to a fight. You approach fights like a dance sequence, really. So 3 weeks before a big fight, the stunt guys will grab you, and you've got an hour or a free afternoon or something, and you'll start going through the moves, and then you'll keep doing that until the day when you're on set. So it's really ingrained in you when you're doing it. But I think it's the most exhilarating part of it as well. It's sort of really you get to release a lot of angst and stuff like that. It's great. They're great fun. But yeah, I would say probably that hanging for me personally. There's a moment where I'm on a great height. It'll be coming up in an episode. Hanging from wires, and I am afraid of heights. So that was one of those no acting required moments. But it's good.
Were there any injuries at all this year? Were you all pretty safe?
Pretty safe, yeah, not
really. I mean, you always get like kind of little knocks, and if you're a stunt man and you're fighting with Aramis here, then you always get knocks.
I did knock out a stunt guy. I elbowed him on his nose very recently. But it was...
How long what time do you start in the morning, and what is the typical of the day? How long do you go the whole day, typical day?
I don't know if there is such a thing as a typical day, because inevitably, I mean, some days I'd be on the phone in the evening and somebody would say, "Well, what were you doing today?" I'd say, "Running upstairs." And they go, "Well, what else?" You go, "No, I was doing the whole day." Because then you've got to get a steady cam working. So every day's pretty exhausting, but sometimes it's just because you're talking. Sometimes it's, running around, going to the throne room or whatever.
And did you have a most challenging moment, Tom, in this series?
I think there was a point in block 2, when I got a bit of an injury. It was particularly hot. It was an episode I decided to do Son's hat. and the heat got to me one day, and I just felt incredibly dizzy. But there was a period where it was very, very hot, and there's dust and smoke, and it just I sound like such a wuss. It was all fine.
Tom, where were you actually injured? Do you mean you?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I just. Well, it was some steps, and they were particularly slippy. And the thing was, everyone had slipped on them, and I was actually, when I slipped, I actually went towards them and thought, those are the slippy steps. And I must have gone down quite slowly and carefully, and I still just went arse over tit. But I sort of stayed in character. They went, "Are you okay?" I said, "I am in some pain. I will need some time."
Luke, did you have a most challenging moment?
I mean, kind of, I can't really, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know if I can really think of one. I mean, kind of climbing up that well was tough, because, you know, to kind of keep reset, we were kind of like falling back on time a little bit at one point, and to kind of keep having to reset to go down and stuff, it was kind of, you know, took time to get up there, because I was on a wire as well, so I had to come down and then up and reset the wire and everything, so, but my feet were getting kind of cut to shreds at one point, and it was, you know, it's kind of my own fault really, because Steve, bless him, our stunt coordinator, was going, "Do you want to come down?" And I was going, no, I'm right, mate, I'll stay up here, and then my feet just started to bleed, and, you know, so it was my own fault really, but that was quite, you know, kind of hobbling around for a little bit after that. But back to what Santiago was saying as well, just kind of fighting the elements really is you know, kind of poses problems every now and again.
And how did you have the toughest moment?
I was just trying to think about what would be the toughest moment. I'd say maybe watching the king kind of fall into you know, disrepair, and seeing you know, Rochefort here kind of, you know, worm his way in. That hurts me. So yeah, but you know.
Quite good method, yes. Mark, the costumes are wonderful, and when we were on set, we were shown a sort of slithery snake costume that Rochefort wears later in the series. Does it help you to get into character?
Yeah. You know, you got the hair and the costume, and that's kind of. Apart from that, you just put on a silly voice, you know. But as soon as I met Phoebe and she started putting this kind of leather on me, and I mean, you haven't seen it in this episode, but all sort of I've got like a snakeskin outfit and a lovely blue leather, and as soon as you get that on and the sword on, it just does everything for you. And the sword's great because you know, one of the worst things about acting is what you do with your hands. And with this, 50% of that problem was gone, because I just had my hand on my sword the whole time, which is good. I'd like to do every job with a sword. But, yeah, but no, it's a great look. It does everything for you. So that and brilliant Maggie doing my hair.
Oh, hello, Maggie.
Who's over there in the back? Whee!
Emma, yes.
Can you tell us more about filming that zip-wire scene?
Well, first of all, it was an incredible set. The biggest blue screen I think a lot of us had ever seen, and it just defied belief. And how it looked when we shot it compared to how it looks in the finished, you know, product is incredible. So everyone that worked on that, I mean, you know, yeah, much respect. But there was an element of safety, obviously. But I'm sure Luke is probably best placed to sort of talk about that as well, because he was hanging from the wire at one point. But you do get lost in the moment, and in that moment when you're doing it, it is a ravine and it's a long drop, and you just, you know, you suspend your disbelief, and stakes become really high, and you know, you sort of run away with it, and yeah, it was but at the same time it was a lot of fun, kind of jumping on that swing thing and then just going along, and we all do it in our own way. But yeah, I mean, I personally really enjoyed that, and I didn't really want to be wired up, but Jess and Colin said I had to be.
Luke, yeah, talk about jumping onto the wire.
Sorry. You kind of when I was doing it, obviously like Mark was saying, you're all wired up and you've got like a crane and like you can never really fall, but it's still quite a drop. It's not obviously it's not a real ravine, but it's still what was it about 20, 25, 30 foot, Colin? Yeah. So it's still quite a drop, and when you're kind of you're surrounded by everything else, it does give you that kind of makes your heart beat. But when I had to jump on that thing, I kind of started out maybe jumping a couple of feet. And then when we did it again, I was kind of jumping a little bit further, and I got further and further every time I did it. When I realised I was, I wasn't going to die or really hurt myself. So it was kind of, you build confidence with it and do it more and more.